Thinking about making the move to Florida? While the Sunshine State certainly has its perks, there are some negatives you need to know about before you start packing your bags. Stay tuned as we count down the top 11 reasons why moving to Florida may not be for you. Number 11, growing cost of living. Living in Florida is no longer the most affordable option in the USA. The cost of living is constantly increasing and it seems to be getting worse. Everyday expenses like groceries, gas, and utilities are much more expensive than anticipated. And much of that has to do with an inflation since COVID-19. There's inflation in everyday goods, inflation in real estate prices, which leads to higher mortgage payments, and property values have risen, leading to higher property taxes. As a result, affordability continues to decline, and it can sometimes feel like there's nothing we can do about it. The cost of living is a relative issue that varies depending on the person. For example, when I moved to Florida, I was thrilled to be able to buy a home for $325,000, whereas in Queens, New York, I couldn't even afford a single-family home and would have been buying a one-bedroom co-op at that price. Moreover, I had to pay a 3% tax on my income for living in New York City. So overall, I feel like I'm getting a better deal and the cost of living is cheaper for me in Florida. However, I know that for many locals who grew up in Florida, it seems like things are much more expensive now, but this is the reality we are living in today. Number 10, insurance rates. In addition to the high insurance rates, Florida homeowners also face the risk of significant property damage due to natural disasters. In recent years, hurricanes have caused billions of dollars in property damage in the state. As a result, homeowners insurance policies in Florida typically include higher deductibles than those in other states. These deductibles can range from 1 to 10% of the property's value, meaning that homeowners may have to pay a significant amount out of pocket before the insurance policy kicks in. Furthermore, the increased insurance rates and property damage risks can make it difficult for some homeowners to sell their properties in Florida. Potential buyers may be deterred by the high insurance costs and the risk of property damage. This can lead to a slower real estate market and, in some cases, lower property values. Homeowners can take steps to mitigate their risk of property damage, such as installing hurricane shutters or reinforcing their homes. Additionally, some insurance companies offer discounts for these types of measures, which can help offset the higher insurance costs. Number 9, political polarization. Florida is a state that is politically polarized. It is no secret that the state is divided into conservative and liberal areas, which can make it difficult to have productive political discussions or even find like-minded individuals. It is sad to see people get into arguments because of opposing political views, and this is a common occurrence. I live in Southwest Florida where the political climate is heavily conservative, but there is a good mix throughout the state. Some areas such as Orlando, Miami, Gainesville, and Tallahassee lean more towards the left, whereas the rest of the state is predominantly conservative. If politics is a significant issue for you, it is important to research the area you wish to live in. I'll provide a link below in the description that breaks down the political demographics by region. It is important to find a community that aligns with your political beliefs to avoid any potential conflicts. Number 8, the heat and humidity. Florida is renowned for its hot and humid climate. When I first moved here, I anticipated feeling hot all the time. However, after living here for 4 years, I've learned a few things. Firstly, your body adapts to the climate. And inversely, when I visit family up north during Christmas and it's 50 degrees out, I feel freezing cold now. Thus, if you move to Florida, you will likely adjust to the climate over time. Once you've acclimated, the key is to avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight, as the sun can be draining over time. However, if you stay in the shade, you can stay outside all day without any issues. During the summer months, it can be especially challenging due to the combination of direct sun and high humidity. On these days, it can feel like you could cut the air with a butter knife and everything feels sticky. It's important to note, however, that the scorching heat lasts for only 3 to 4 months from June to September. The weather from October to May is beautiful year-round, although it can get chilly. Even in South Florida, we occasionally experience nighttime temperatures in the 30s. Overall, while some may initially fear that the heat will be unbearable, most individuals become accustomed to it and may even come to love it. I, for one, would never want to return up north to shovel snow again. Number 7, insects. Florida is notorious for being home to some of the most bothersome insects on the planet. Have you ever accidentally stepped on a fire ant mound or been attacked by a swarm of no-see-ums? These tiny mosquitoes live up to their name, and their bites can be quite uncomfortable. If you live in South Florida, it is essential to be cautious when near still bodies of waters, as that is where the eggs are laid. Fire ants are also a major concern. I personally dislike not being able to walk around barefoot in my yard, and even when wearing sandals you need to be careful, as their bites can be painful. In addition to fire ants and no-see-ums, there are numerous other insects to be mindful of, such as black widow spiders, scorpions, and brown recluse spiders, among others. Regardless of where you live in Florida, there is likely some venomous insect in the area, so it's crucial to be aware of your surroundings. Number 6, property taxes. Florida is known for having some of the highest property taxes in the United States. In addition, families with children can expect to pay a considerable amount in school district fees, which can be a significant financial burden. If you are buying a newly constructed home, you also need to factor in the Community Development District fees. This fee is comparable to the cost of building new sports stadiums in cities. If you move to a new master plan community, such as the Villages, Welland Park in Venice, or my hometown Babcock Ranch, you will be responsible for the CDD fees. This fee is a bond that the developer takes out to cover the cost of constructing new developments, and homeowners pay it over time. One contributing factor to the high property taxes is the tremendous surge in property values since COVID-19. As property values increase, properties are reassessed, leading to higher property taxes. This issue is subjective and varies depending on where you are coming from. Again, going back to when I grew up in Queens, New York City, and could not even afford to purchase a home there, paying $6,000 per year for my first house in Florida did not seem bad at all. The upside of living in Florida is that there is no state income tax. Therefore, it is essential to look at the full tax picture to assess whether it will be more expensive to live in Florida than your current location. Number 5, hurricanes. Florida is infamous for its hurricanes, natural disasters that can be devastating and cause significant damage to homes and infrastructure. As a kid growing up in New York City, I vividly recall watching Hurricane Andrew wreak havoc on the state back in 1992. The thought of experiencing a hurricane firsthand can be quite frightening. Recently, I experienced my first hurricane, Hurricane Ian. Fortunately, where I lived had minimal impact, but seeing the damage toll on coastal areas so close to where I live, Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel, was heart-wrenching. This hurricane has made many people reconsider the wisdom of living in a coastal area, and it has contributed to rising insurance costs, making it more expensive to live in Florida. Depending on where you live, you may be at a higher risk for hurricanes. In Babcock Ranch, where I currently reside, we are far enough inland that we only have to worry about wind damage. If you haven't seen the special on 60 Minutes about Babcock Ranch, I'll provide a link in the description below. Ultimately, it is important to be prepared for the potential impact of hurricanes and to consider the risks when choosing where to live in Florida. Number 4, tourist crowds. Florida is undoubtedly one of the most popular tourist destinations globally, with attractions such as Disney World in Orlando, which is the theme park capital of the world, and Miami, known for its nightlife and beaches. The Panhandle area also boasts popular beaches such as Destin. Due to its pleasant weather, Florida remains seasonal, and during the winter months, there is always a surge in the number of visitors, regardless of where you are in the state. As a result, tourist crowds can be a nuisance depending on where you live. However, some areas are better equipped to handle large crowds than others. The upside of living in Florida is that we rarely have to leave the state to enjoy an incredible adventure. From beach hopping to exploring the Everglades to visiting quaint towns like St. Augustine, there are endless possibilities for adventure. However, it is important to learn when to plan your vacations to avoid those big tourist crowds. Overall, while the influx of tourists can be overwhelming, it brings a significant boost to the state's economy and opens up numerous opportunities for fun and adventure. Whether you are a tourist or a resident, Florida has something to offer everyone. Number 3, public transportation. Public transportation in Florida is not as efficient or comprehensive as it is in many other states. While there are some public transportation options available in larger cities like Miami and Florida, they often don't provide sufficient coverage across the entire metropolitan area. Additionally, the services may not run frequently enough, especially during peak hours, and they can be unreliable due to traffic congestion and other factors. Most Floridians rely on cars to get around, which can lead to significant traffic congestion and lengthy commutes, particularly in urban areas. This can be frustrating and time-consuming, especially for those who need to commute long distances to work or school. Florida has been criticized for not investing enough in public transportation infrastructure and services. Despite efforts to expand transportation options in some areas such as light rail systems, many Floridians still feel that the state has a long way to go in improving its public transportation options. Bottom line, if you live here, you're going to need a car. Number 2, public education. Florida's public education system has consistently ranked low in terms of quality and funding, which can be a major concern for families with children. According to an article released by the Tampa Bay Times this year, Florida has the nation's worst learning rate. While politicians may deny that our schools are subpar, the factors speak for themselves. However, there are many excellent private schools and universities in Florida. While they come at a cost, they offer great opportunities for children and young adults to learn and receive quality education. If you are moving to Florida and education is a top priority for your family, I highly recommend researching the area you are interested in to determine the availability of educational opportunities. Overall, while the public education system in Florida may not be the best, there are many alternatives available, and it is crucial to do thorough research when considering education options for your family. And number 1, last but not least, red tide. Now, red tide is a harmful algal bloom that frequently occurs in Florida's waters, usually between August and December. If you've never been to the beach during red tide, it is perhaps one of the most repulsive things you could experience. Breathing in the red tide's fumes is an unpleasant sensation that can irritate your lungs, and seeing the dead fish strewn across the shores it's revolting. The big question when it comes to the red tide is whether it will ever clear up. Many scientists believe that the phenomenon is so strong now due to the pollution caused by farming practices in the state. While Florida is working to address the issue, it remains uncertain whether it will ever be fully resolved. So if you love boating, there may be times when you should avoid venturing into the Gulf due to red tide. If you live on the Atlantic side of Florida, you are less likely to encounter red tide because of the oceanic currents. Therefore, if you are an avid boater and require regular access to the water, you may want to consider living on the ocean rather than the Gulf side. So the red tide, in summary, is a serious environmental issue in Florida, and it is important to be aware of its potential impact when visiting or moving to the state. So there you have it, the top 11 reasons why you should avoid moving to Florida unless you can handle all of these negatives. Now, if you're still considering a move to the Sunshine State, make sure you do your research and think carefully before making the decision. My team specializes in Southwest Florida, so if you are considering making a move down here, the best way to begin a conversation is by heading over to talk.swfloridarealestate.com and scheduling a video conference. I also have partners all across the state of Florida, so if you would like me to connect you with a top-notch agent in my brokerage, eXp Realty, shoot me an email at info@swfloridarealestate.com and we'll be happy to make a connection. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we hope to call you a fellow Floridian one day soon.